Thanks. I'm really excited to be here at St. Paul's. I think this school has taken an enormous creative leap in establishing International Baccalaureate in the way that it has. Um, Along with your international primary curriculum in the elementary school, the Japanese program, and what I saw of the STEM club this afternoon in Mick Scott's class, there are things happening here that I haven't seen in any other independent school, and I think this is really a special place to be. The real factoid was that in 1987, 26% of all the Mexican Americans in the country who took AP calculus exams, 26% of all the Mexican Americans in America who took and passed the AP calculus exam were students at Garfield High School. 1/4 of all the Mexican Americans in the country who passed that exam were at that one high school. And my first thought was, gee, that's a great, testament to what Jaime and his co-teacher Ben Jimenez did for those kids. But the second thought was more depressing. If they could do that at that school and produce that many kids, why couldn't all the teachers in the hundreds of other schools, like low-income schools like Garfield, bring their kids to that level? What was magic about what was going on at Garfield? And that has been what I've been trying to find out for the last 30 years. There were 5 things that were going on at that school, which, if you'll listen carefully, are very close to things that are going on at this school, in part because the school is so good, and in part because you are so good as parents. You've given kids the kind of background that kids need, and a lot of kids at places like Garfield don't get and have to be supplied by the teachers. High expectations for every one of those kids at Garfield. That was terribly important. Jaime didn't think low-income Mexican kids were too poor or too disadvantaged to learn. He just thought they, like all teenagers, were lazy, and he was going to fill up their time with learning. High expectations. Number 2, extra time for learning. I mean, at this school, you do it because you're all making sure kids do their homework. Jaime made sure that kids do their homework by inviting them all to come into his class at 3 o'clock and stay until 6. And if you weren't doing the homework, he made you want to be in his class at 3 o'clock and stay till 6, or your life would be miserable. Take testing seriously. I'm going to get to the importance of the IB exam, the best exam we give in high schools in our country now. But in that case, he had the AP exam, and he took it seriously. A lot of people talk about we're testing kids too much, we're teaching the tests. That's not a really helpful attitude if you want to raise the level of kids' achievement. You have to, if you have a good test, you should test to it, since that's your whole purpose is to learn something and review, which is what testing is part of the learning process. High expectations, more time, testing. They created teamwork, creating a school where all the teachers and faculty act as a team, rowing in the same direction. And last, having a strong leader who can create a team atmosphere in a school like this or a school like Garfield. And so my life since then has been, so this is 97 when I did that, has been learning as much as I could about IB and seeing how good it is and how it is in many ways even better than AP. I'd spent a lot of time writing about AP. It has certainly revolutionized Garfield High School and a lot of other schools, but there was something about IB that took us to the next step. And I think it's important for parents and teachers in a school like this one to appreciate on a national, international perspective how good IB is and how much it is doing to take us to the next level of education, which we are sorely lacking. As many of you know, in the United States in general, we've had no significant gains in mathematics or reading scores for 17-year-olds in the last 30 years. Our high school education system is stuck, is in a slump, and it's not gotten out of it. And I think in part it's because of what I saw and when I was visiting all those great schools, not wanting to challenge their average students. Why was that? Why didn't they want to? Why were they confining AP to just their best kids? Why did that make any sense? Here's what I've learned. And if you take anything from this chat, just these points, or think of the ones that you should remember. I've got written down 4 of the reasons why IB is the best thing for America today. Number 1, the exams are longer and deeper, and they are all as you know, almost all essay questions. Half of AP final exams are multiple choice, half are essays. IB is all essays. This is the greatest example of the emphasis that IB puts on writing. I'll get into this in more depth, but the weakest part of American high school education today is writing. We simply don't teach it with any vigor. IB forces schools to teach writing, how kids to think clearly, to think critically, and to be able to put their thoughts into coherent prose, which is a terrific thing. And one of the reasons is because they have 3 to 5 hour exams, which you're writing all the time. As I say, my hand was limp after doing that IB exam. And as you may have noticed, I was teasing the faculty here, but rather if they've been teasing the girls' school, an AP school, about what's happening in AP. You may not have noticed, but their AP is changing their exams to be just like IB exams. They're making them with more choices, more writing, so that teachers can go deeper, and that the essays that they work on will be deep. The teacher in a new AP school, class, and they're starting with the sciences, can focus on just a few subjects, and since the kid has a choice on the exam, which they don't have now in AP, but will in the new AP exams like they do in IB, you can have a much more deeper education, and you write better and have a better system. Number 2, the integration of IB with theory of knowledge, with community service, and with each courses to the other is remarkably good and useful, and allows teachers to experiment and cross borders, which you can't do in AP. Number 3, IB makes for more challenging schools. I mean, I only noticed this when I started expanding, and when the number of schools on the challenge index, my annual ratings of schools began to expand. It went from 243 that first year to about 400 the next year. In the most recent year, 2012, for which we used 2011 data, we have more than 2,000 schools that have reached that ratio of at least as many AP or IB exams as graduating seniors. That's still only 10% of American high schools, but it's a lot. And when you look at where the IB schools, it's remarkable. For many of the last few years, at least half of the top 10 schools have been IB schools. In the top 100 schools, about 7% have been IB schools, when IB only represents about 2% of American high schools. So there's something about IB that presents a much higher chance of challenge than AP, if you're looking at it in that sense, and I think that's important to note. And last but not least, and I cannot overemphasize this, the extended essay, which IB diploma candidates do, is, based on the testimony of every IB student I've ever interviewed, the most satisfying intellectually, emotionally, and academically experience there is for American high school students today. Writing a 4,000-word essay, a research essay, is so different than what schools demand these days, is so keyed into what colleges demand, and is so satisfying to a student who wants to really learn something and show how much he can find in the world. And it's so key to their falling in love with learning, which is what we want all kids to do, that it is absolutely the premier thing happening in high schools today. And sadly, if you go beyond IB schools and beyond some private schools, which also emphasize some kind of project in the end of the year, no American high schools, certainly no public American high schools except IB schools, require that many kids to write a long research essay. It's simply not in the cards. It's too hard to grade. It's too hard to organize. Let me put in a word about college admissions. People often ask, well, isn't AP better for college admissions? And it's not the case. I've talked to, scores of college admissions people in our most collective schools. If your son comes in from St. Paul's School having taken 4 IB tests and has 4 IB exams but does not have the diploma, and he is stacked up against a student from, I don't know, Marshall High School in Fairfax County, who has taken 4 AP tests and exams, they are right at the same level. Not having the IB diploma is not an issue if they have as many courses and exams as IB as they have in AP. College admissions offices love AP, they love IB, and I think they mostly like IB a little bit better because they know of the strengths that I've just described, and will tell you about it if you ask them. So IB does deliver, and it does. You don't need to be. It delivers everything you need to be not only ready for college, but ready to compete in life, to be able to write, to be able to understand, to be able to do the kind of things that we want our kids to be able to do. At St. Paul's, what I did in terms of my journey in looking at high schools these days and what is challenging, what is not. Your teachers here are asking your kids to do things that very few other schools would ask them to do, and your students are responding. Most of our schools, even our best schools, don't do that. Here at St. Paul's, you have a school, I sense the kids are very comfortable, but not too comfortable. You want them to be able to say when they get out of high school, that is a high school that gave me something that I can deal with. Where they want them to be able to finish up saying, I've written something or done something I'm proud of that's added value to my life and makes me readier for life and for college. That's what you've done here. So I think you should celebrate the fact that you're at a school that has taken that leap forward, and congratulate yourselves for being at such a good school that has taken the great creative risk of making sure your kids learn and are as excited about learning as you want them to be.